Good morning, good morning, good morning. I hope everybody is doing well. Thank you so much for being here today. I greatly appreciate your support and I greatly appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us today as we talk something about something that is, well, often misunderstood. So we're going to kind of dispel some myths, but I want to reiterate something very important. Number one, we're not financial experts. Okay, this is not something that um, this is not something that we're trying to get people to buy Bitcoin. This is not something we're trying to get people to invest in. This is not something that we are pushing. We're not, we're not selling this. This is not something that's coming out of our um, uh, advertising budget, so to speak, right? This is not something that we are pushing in this regard. It is purely about information dissemination, and the decisions you make on your financial end are your own. And I want to be very, very clear about that because there are some important pieces to discuss when we talk about investing. Now, here's something that I want to show you. Now, I am doing this in vertical and live stream. I'm only doing this for a very specific reason, because I want to show some data. The Tiger, who tonight is going to be going live, and I want to show him the merits of streaming both directions. So, Siren, if you're here, I don't think Siren's here, but you'll be able to see that I'm watching both chats. So be patient with me if I don't get to your question immediately. Again, put in the word question, type it all in caps, and we'll get to it. But I want to show you something. And the thing that I'm going to show you is probably way more complex than any of you really want to know about. I actually went through and generated some code. Now, I'm going to tell you about why I'm doing this. Because again, this is about information. This isn't something that is, I'm not trying to push Bitcoin. I'm not trying to push silver and gold. I'm not trying to push numismatic. I'm an education channel. I want you to be informed about what it is. And that's it. You all make up your own mind. But what I've done is I've created a scenario. It's a hypothetical scenario. And I'm going to get here and kind of show you what's happening. So as you break it down, what I'm doing is this is the pretense of what's happening. Okay. $5,000 invested, 5,000 in silver, 5,000 in gold, and 5,000 in Bitcoin, December 31st of 2010. Now, why does that matter? Well, we'll get to that here in just a second. This tells me that if I was to invest that much money in silver, I would have had 163 ounces. I would have had 3.5 ounces of gold, and it would have had 16.667 Bitcoin, or 16,666 Bitcoin at that time frame. It gives you the general price points of the buy-ins, which are located here. And here we go with kind of running the number. I save this, and then I present this information into a chart, and that chart is pushed out. Okay. Why am I doing this? Well, I'm going to bring up my buddy Hercules. Hey, Hercules, how you doing, sir?
I am doing great today. How about you?
Good. So the reason that I did this is we were talking last week about some of the pitfalls, and well, it's speculative, and well, it's dangerous, and oh, there's some security issues that you have to consider when you're looking at Bitcoin, and you have to make sure things are taken into account. And really, what would you have made if you had done this? And so I wanted to take time and kind of break this out. So again, everybody in chat, thank you so much for being here. I'm not going to do this. We have a lot to go over, so I apologize for not announcing everybody and saying hi. But what I want to look at is I want to look at the general prices. Again, you come in the first year and the numbers are right. It's really pretty. This just gives you a logarithmic view. And by the way, we had to do logarithmic view, and I put the description down here because when you're looking at all three of these assets, if you're trying to do these based off of individual numbers, these numbers are going to be slivers. You won't see anything. So I had to do a logarithmic scale in order to be able to show kind of what's happening. But as we come down here, we look at this and we see if I was investing $5,000 into silver, gold, and Bitcoin in 2011, you would have seen an increase respectively. Your total profit for that 15,000 investment would have been $91,000. You can see that it went up. Oh, holy cow. Wait, that's not K anymore. That's million. These are both Ks. Ooh, yeah, Bitcoin blew up in 2012, 2013. Massive increase. Oh, by the way, there's a massive drop here. Oh, massive increase, massive increase. Okay, so what's the whole purpose of this? Well, when I come down here and I try to show you these assets, this is your gain in retrospect to Bitcoin. So there's no doubt that if you would have got in early, woulda, shoulda, coulda, that's not what we're here to talk about. There's no doubt that you would have seen massive, massive gains. But my call here is that I want to explain why this would have been a good investment, and not necessarily that you should do it, but be informed as to why certain things happen. Okay. So there are a couple questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to go back. Hercules, thank you so much for being here again today.
Oh, thanks for having me, buddy.
There were two questions that came about, and one of the question was something that you and I said just before we came live, and that was speculation. And a lot of people don't like Bitcoin because it's speculative. But can you talk a little bit about commodities and speculation in general?
Yeah. You know, everybody speculates on everything. Gold right now, it's the boom that's happening. Many people are speculating, right? They don't have the deep understanding that your audience does about the fiat system and why they're even going to gold. They just see gold's going up and they're like, wow, let's get on that fast horse and ride it as far as we can. That most of the market is all speculation. So when people say, "Oh, Bitcoin's speculative," yeah, there is speculative bubbles in Bitcoin, and like we were saying offline, the that's the reason I look at the bottoms of Bitcoin cycles, not the tops. The tops are speculative bubbles, right? Because that's where people get excited and they don't even know what they're buying, but they just know it's going up and they don't want to miss the boat, so they jump in and the bubble goes up and then it pops and people panic and they run out. But when that panic ends, there's a bottom. And if you look at the bottoms, for instance, in the last 3 cycles of Bitcoin, I believe the bottoms went from about $300 to 3,000. Roughly, these are rough. $300 to around $3,000, then to $15,000, and now we'll see if this is the end of this Bitcoin cycle, which I don't know one way or the other. But when the speculators leave again, there will be a new bottom, which will most likely be much higher than the last bottom of 15,000. And those, to me, are the people who are not speculators any longer. These are people who understand that, wow, someone created digital money and it works. And I think I would like to use it and I would like to keep going with this. Right? Human beings are going to adapt and make this even better over time. And so those people aren't selling because they are adopters and they're using it. And for instance, me, you can't spend Bitcoin at a lot of places, but guess what? You can spend your Bitcoin. I spend my Bitcoin at, I actually get my toes done. No, that might not be a manly thing, but I get my toes done. She takes Bitcoin. I have a dentist who takes Bitcoin. I have certain websites that I buy and purchase things from that take Bitcoin. I try to use Bitcoin whenever I can. I go to Steak and Shake because they take Bitcoin. And Bitcoiners tend to try to create this circular economy with their Bitcoin. So these guys aren't speculators any longer. These are the base people who are adopting this new technology and believe it's going to be a big part of the financial system in the future. So is there speculation in Bitcoin? Yes, but there's speculation in everything. So that's
And
my big
that's a really good point. And as yours says, you also need the patience and the presence of mind to hold through the ups and the downs.
correct.
There's going to be ups and downs in everything. And the one thing that's really important, again, folks, we're not financial advisors. I've got the ticker running down the entire time we're talking about this. The intent of today is not to get you to buy or invest in Bitcoin. Far from it. It's not to be the antithesis of silver and gold. Far from it. Matter of fact, you're talking to somebody who has both Bitcoin and gold. We talked about this last week. Hercules is bullish on both of those. And so it's not a matter of, oh, Bitcoin's the be all end all and all you gold people are just sucking. No, that's not what this is. What I want to draw attention to, okay, so how many of you by entering a 1 in chat, okay, 1 in chat if you consider yourself a stacker and you've used Kitco before, okay? Put a 1 in chat if you've used Kitco. If you've never utilized Kitco to check for spot price or to check to see what's going on with the market, put a 2 in chat. And the reason that I'm showing this particular one, the reason that I'm stating this is because I want you all to realize that the Bitcoin crypto that I'm looking at right now, oh, it's on Kitco, folks. Okay. This is a precious metals company. Why are they dealing with Bitcoin? Well, because it's a thing. Doesn't matter if the older generation, like most of us, doesn't get it or understand it. There are people who do, and if you're in it, you need to have ways to be able to buy or sell with it. There are lots of questions about security. Well, guess what? Yeah, they probably do the Bitcoin bullion coins as well, right? But the point is that you're looking at about a major company. Now we'll go over here another one. This is another one. Everybody utilizes this when you're looking at AppMex, right? Now AppMex, I don't really like looking at the charts on AppMex, but there's something really interested about here when you're looking at the gold spot price on here. And this is something that I noticed the other day. So when I'm looking at gold, Hercules, and I by the way, folks, Hercules has no idea I was going to ask him this question. Okay, I didn't preface this with, hey, by the way, get familiar with AppMex's chart because I'm going to ask you a couple tough questions. That's not the purpose of today, and I didn't tell him about that. But what do you see in this chart? And again, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but this is where obviously we're looking at. Let's go to, I like the 5-year chart. Let's go to the 5-year chart. What are you seeing here on my options for looking at this particular chart?
I see you can compare it to the dollar, to Dow Jones, S&P, crude oil, and to Bitcoin.
Okay, so bingo, honed in. This is why he's good with money. Outstanding. I want to show you guys a couple things. Now, how many people are believers in the Dow or the S&P 500? Right? I've talked with Azure about a bit about investing. If you guys don't know, Azure has had a little bit of financial experience in his life. Supposed to be. He has a lot, folks. But it's important to understand. But again, they also include a commodity on here. This is crude oil. And again, volatility. You're going to see volatility, ups and downs. Okay, it doesn't always go up. Things are going to go up. They're going to go down. There's the old adage, what goes up must come down. Even air gets cold and drops back down, right? So when you're looking at this, I want to look at it in comparison and see that kind of long-term chart. What has Bitcoin done in relation to all these others? And you can't deny the fact that it's done a lot of good. It's grown quite a bit, okay? And you see lots and lots of information. People say, well, it's extremely volatile. Well, let's change this and let's look at the silver chart instead. And let's get rid of the crude oil. Let's get rid of the Dow Jones. Let's just compare it to, oh, yeah, well, you can't really see the volatility there. So let's look at that and tell me that it doesn't basically look the same. They're volatile, folks. There are too many things that affect this. Yeah, you have industry. Yes, it's a good buy. It just got listed on the low 50 precious elements or whatever it is from the geological survey or whatever that was listed, right? Platinum, palladium, silver, copper, some other ones were listed on there. Yeah, but again, it's industry and whether they have access to it. And when we had this situation where silver shot up to $54, we had stories where people couldn't offload it. That's another thing about offloading Bitcoin that I heard in the comments that came after the fact. So what I want to do today is when Hercules and I were talking about what is it that we want to discuss, when we talked about kind of the general thing, Hercules suggested we looking on how to obtain it, the DCA strategies, and how to do things with custody. I think that's extremely important. That's going to be phase 2 of this conversation today. But I want to take 15 minutes real quick. And I want to talk a little bit about volatility. I want to talk about why we put things in our portfolios that are safe, why we put things in our portfolios that are volatile, that have higher potential for upside. And so if you look at Bitcoin, they fall into the same lines of these commodities, and it is a commodity. Crude oil is the largest of these commodities, right? So when you're looking at this information again, why would AppMex be including Bitcoin in the charts? Well, because it's a thing and it's something to be considered. Now, it doesn't mean that people have to go with it, doesn't mean people have to do it, but it is something to look into and consider. Thus, the topic for today's conversation. So can you talk a little bit about that, Hercules? Can you talk a little bit about your experience? And I just want your experience. I'm, again, not financial advice. I'm not asking you to become a sage of the investment world. But why would you want to include something like Bitcoin with its volatility and potential upside in your investment portfolio?
Well, first and foremost, I like to diversify, right? The old adage, you don't want to put all your chickens in one egg. I mean, all your chickens in one basket, correct? Or eggs in
Do you
one
know why
basket.
they say that?
No, please tell me.
Because
I knew this was going to be a joke. um, so, at first, just look and say, well, what can I invest in? Where can I put my money? What different buckets can I put my money in? Because we really don't know what every bucket's going to do. So we try to disperse it into different buckets. That's how I look at it. So there was always silver, there was gold. I mean, there was precious metals, there was equities, there was T bonds, there was real estate, art. These are some of the basic places people invest their money. And I invested a little bit in all of them. Real estate, not so much, but I do own my home. So I do have some real estate. And when Bitcoin came along and started gaining popularity, I'm like, well, I wonder if I should have a bucket of this. So just for the fact that you want to diversify. And then when I started looking into Bitcoin, I realized, well, you know what? When you buy stocks, you're or anything, you have on almost all your investments, you have a counterparty risk, right?
yeah,
And
absolutely.
and, and with Bitcoin, there's really no counterparty risk. There's no third parties you're dealing with. You're directly holding your own Bitcoin. And there's no real control measures over the production of Bitcoin. And we talked about this a little earlier, but I'll kind of touch on it right now. Um, like mining, like gold. Gold is mined, and when gold prices go up, the mining of gold increases because people are like, "Whoa, I got to get more mine out of that gold out of this mine because prices are high, right?" So that's what happens. Bitcoin, the the amount of Bitcoin that comes out of the mine, the digital mine of Bitcoin, is done is given out via a reward to the miners. So I don't want to get too deep into mining because that's a very complicated subject. But basically, what happens is the miners are, if you want to think of it this way, they are the people who it is a global guessing game. They use computers to do a hash, but just think of it real basic. It's a global guessing game where participants repeatedly hash block headers with slight variations until someone gets a hash below a moving target. And the winner is the one who gets to then become the accountant that puts all the transactions that have happened in the last 10 minutes into a block and connect that block to the blockchain. And so think of it as 100,000 accountants competing to be the one who does the accounting to put the transactions on the ledger. And for that, they get rewarded with Bitcoin. And that's how the Bitcoin come out of the mine. And that reward started off at 50 Bitcoins. So every 10 minutes, 50 Bitcoins came out of the mine because a miner would figure out the hash, get rewards, and put the accounting into the blockchain. Well, what happens with Bitcoin is every 4 years, something happens called the halvening. And what the halvening is that, when I say every 4 years, it actually goes by how many blocks. I think it's 210,000 blocks, but it averages to 4 years since blocks are about 10 minutes. So every 4 years, that amount of reward that comes out of the mine actually gets cut in half. So the supply slowly decreases over time. And that is why you see these speculative 4 year cycle bubbles in Bitcoin, because everyone knows that this is happening. So if there's a certain amount of demand in the market, and that demand is causing a certain price level because there's a certain supply coming out of the mine, and now all of a sudden you know that supply is going to get cut in half. Well, the speculators come in. They're like, wow, supply down, demand the same, price going to go up, right? And then so they come in, the price starts moving up, and then that brings in the people who don't even know anything about Bitcoin. They just see it going up and they want to ride the wave, and thus the speculative cycle starts, and it happens basically every 4 years, and it's stimulated by the fact that the halvening happens every 4 years. So it would be, if you were going to go back to the equivalent of gold, it would be like as if gold mining was set at a certain rate of gold coming out of every mine, and then every 4 years they're going to decrease the amount of gold coming out of that mine, and there's nothing anybody can do about it.
So I put in something for Azure to enter in chat. Him and I have talked about the effects of leveraging, because you're talking about the miner and why they want to mine at certain times, why they don't want to mine at certain times. There's definitely dealer cost against goods sold with profit margin. It's a very complex item. But there's a question in chat that I want to get to. It's a good question. It says, I've seen a lot of Bitcoin mining machines. Are they worth getting into?
I don't have a Bitcoin mining machine, but is it worth getting into? Yeah, I would say do your research, check it out and see, but I would say yes. Mining is going to change over time, of course, because when mining started, there was a certain type of computer you could use, and then they built ASICs, which were a different type of computer they use, and now you can even get a little miner for your home, which doesn't have a lot of hashing power. But matter of fact, yesterday, I believe, a solo independent miner won the hash and got the block reward. And the block reward right now is I think it's 3.17 Bitcoin. So someone who had a little miner plugged into his house actually earned 3.17 Bitcoin because his miner won that competition. Now that doesn't happen very often because as more and more miners come, it takes more and more computational power to win the block. But another interesting aspect of Bitcoin that not many people know is there's what's called a difficulty level adjustment. And so many times people will talk about mining and say, well, what happens if, everyone stops mining or something happened, like in China, what happened a few years ago when China banned it and all the miners were shut down. And people are like, well, what's going to happen at that point? Well, believe it or not, Bitcoin was made to take care of that problem. There's what's called a difficulty adjustment, meaning the more miners that come in and the more computational power that comes in, well, the faster someone would be able to kind of do that computational guessing and win the block. So if the block time starts shrinking under 10 minutes, the difficulty goes up. So it makes it harder for the computers to do the guessing that they're doing on this hash number, right? So as computational power goes up, the difficulty goes up. As computational power comes down, the difficulty comes down. So people go, well, what happens if people just stop mining or whatever, or something happened? Well, even if just 5 people are mining, the system will automatically adjust that level of difficulty down so those 5 people can still keep the network running. So it's a very interesting part of mining that, and again, I am not a mining expert, so I'm just giving you a very high level look at what mining is all about. But when you look into it and read about it, it was one of the most beautiful parts of Bitcoin that was made. The proof of work that happens in Bitcoin is really what differentiates Bitcoin from everything else and what made digital money possible. So, I would say anybody who's interested in mining, go out there, start researching. But, the last Bitcoin won't be mined till 140 years from now. So there's plenty of Bitcoin still to be mined. And when the mining, when the Bitcoin is, all the Bitcoin is mined out of the digital vault, people go, well, what happens at that point? Well, what happens at that point is transaction fees will be what rewards the miners. You will have to pay a fee to get your Bitcoin transacted across a certain amount of time. So, for instance, you have a giant proposal, you have to get this money to this guy in 10 minutes, you're going to pay a higher fee. So your transaction gets in the next block. And then the miners get those fees. So that's how the mining gets subsidized after the last Bitcoin is mined in 140 years. So real quick, that's just a little touch on mining. But that's a whole nother ball game.
It's a whole deep subject. And so just to reiterate, I know a lot of people say, well, I don't want to have to deal with the fees associated with that. Folks, we pay with fees in silver and gold too. It's how much that entity is able to pay under or over spot. We talked with Tiger Stacker. Again, you guys know that him and I do Stack Collector, and he was selling some silver because he had to pay for some items. And his place of doing it was like $7-8 under spot because the price was so high and nobody was buying at the time. He went and cultivated different options at different places and he couldn't find it at much better price. So people are like, well, that's unfortunate. The price went high. The dealers are, but that is the fee that you're
Right.
paying because they have to be profitable. So don't get lured into the misconception that we don't pay fees when dealing with silver and gold or platinum or palladium. They just look differently, but they're all there. So what I want
Correct.
to do is Luther's asked two questions, but I think that the two questions will be tied if we talk about obtaining and using Bitcoin. So let's go a little bit about what you and I talked about last night via text. Why don't you go ahead and just start going on that track? I'll be monitoring questions, and then as the questions become relevant, we'll talk about those.
Okay, sounds good. So there's only really two ways to acquire Bitcoin. You either mine it or you buy it, right? Um, so we touched on mining. Like I said, that's a whole nother subject. But so just know that you can mine Bitcoin or you have to purchase Bitcoin. If you're going to purchase Bitcoin, you can go to exchanges. The most common exchange that most people know is Coinbase and or Robinhood. Um, Both of those exchanges are fine. They got pretty high fees. I don't use them, but they're okay. Another way you can get access to Bitcoin, but you don't actually get Bitcoin, is the new ETFs. So as you know, like with gold, if you're buying a gold ETF, you really don't own any gold, right? You owe an IOU. So I don't really recommend that, but some people like to use ETFs just to get exposure to the price changes in Bitcoin, but you really don't have your Bitcoin.
So to interrupt you real quick, I'm showing a screen of an ETF. This is something that was done not too long ago. Many people were tracking this. This is a numismatic version of this. And this is the $100,000 bill that was tokenized. You actually could buy for $1,000, $1,100, $1,200, $1,500, whatever that was. You can buy a block of this particular note. So basically, this is what he's talking about. I just wanted to give people a visual reference of what they're talking about when they're talking about things like tokenization or they're talking about EFTs. It's
Right,
basically buying a small chunk of a larger entity. So just
right.
quickly, so
And
you're aware.
just to reiterate, you're buying an IOU. You have to trust that that third party is going to deliver on that to you. So for me as a Bitcoiner, that's that defeats the purpose. I'm looking for sovereignty. I'm looking for peer to peer, no third parties. So I want the actual Bitcoin. I don't want an IOU to Bitcoin, but it is a way to get exposure to the price of Bitcoin. But going back to getting actual Bitcoin, so you can get it from Coinbase, you can get it from Robinhood. Um, you can get those are the two biggest exchanges. Gemini is another exchange that's in the U.S. So those are probably the three top exchanges where you can purchase Bitcoin, and all three of those exchanges you can actually purchase the actual Bitcoin and then transfer it into your own wallet if you want to, which I would recommend because that's when you actually own the Bitcoin. Um, Other ways to do it, and the way I personally do it, I use an app called Strike. I don't know if anybody's aware of this app, but um, it's kind of like a PayPal, but they have Bitcoin, and PayPal actually has Bitcoin also too, so you can do it through PayPal. But I use Strike, and I just do a dollar cost average where I purchase a certain amount of Bitcoin every week. I don't try to time these speculative bubbles. I don't try to time the market. I just dollar cost average and buy a certain amount of Bitcoin every week and put it into my bucket. Same thing I do with gold and silver, and pretty much same thing I do with equities. Equities I try to time maybe a little bit more so, but um, most of my stuff is done with DCA. So those are the ways you can get Bitcoin. I prefer Strike. They have a decent. Their fees are the lowest, and they're very easy to set up to your bank account. Set up a DCA where you're purchasing a certain amount every week, every month, however you want to do it. And then what I do is once I get to a certain amount of Bitcoin, I take it and I transfer it into my wallet. So let's go on to holding your Bitcoin. So the way you hold your Bitcoin is in wallets. Wallets are just software that speak to the Bitcoin network. because you never actually have a Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is digital. So the way I try to explain Bitcoin in my mind, the way I look at it is I look at it like a giant, let's say a checkerboard or a chessboard, right? And all the Bitcoin is on that board, all 21 million. And what you're doing is when you come in with a wallet, you connect into that board and you create a little space where some of those pieces are going to be held. That is your wallet. And you then are the only person that can take that Bitcoin that's sitting in your wallet and move it somewhere else on that board. So there is no Bitcoin in your wallet. Your wallet is really just software that talks to the Bitcoin network. And then you input your keys, which is that 12 to 24 phrase word we talked about last time. And that is what allows the Bitcoin that is your little parking spot to be moved to another spot on that board. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So these wallets, there's many of them. I personally like Blue Wallet. And with Blue Wallet, you can set up what's called a hot wallet or a cold wallet. Okay, a hot wallet is you download the software on your phone, and the keys, remember, which is the 12 to 24 word phrase. Those keys are stored in the app on your phone. So not ideal, because if someone were to steal your phone and be able to hack into that app, they could find out what your seed phrase is and have access to move your coins. Okay. But it's convenient because you don't need to remember your seed phrase. You don't need to have it stored somewhere or on another device to actually what's called sign the transaction and move the coins. You can just take your wallet that's on your phone, have maybe like $1,000 on it, and you can transact with it very simply. Like, for instance, when I go to Steak and Shake and buy my burgers, I pull up my phone, camera comes on, I scan the QR code, I hit send, and boom, the Bitcoin is sent because the software signs the transaction with my keys that are stored on the phone. But your level of security is not that great because someone can hack your phone and get those that seed phrase. So that's like the difference of keeping your gold in your safe at home, right?
Or in your bedroom window.
or right, or you're carrying a couple dollars in your pocket. Or like, let's take fiat. You're storing your main wealth in the bank, but you're walking around town with $200 in your pocket.
So this leads to another question that we got, and we talked about this a lot last week, and about security. I want to reiterate to everybody, and Hercules went through this very well. But a lot of people may still be confused what is meant by an exchange versus a wallet versus the Bitcoin server itself. A lot of people go, well, Bitcoin has been confiscated off exchanges in the middle of transfers, when it reaches a person's bank, things of that nature. But the Bitcoin servers themselves, and folks, if you don't believe, it's a simple Google. But here's the thing: when you Google, you have to know what you're asking for when you Google. An incorrect question will result in incorrect answer. So ask the question, has Bitcoin server ever been hacked? The answer is no, it hasn't been. Even with the quantum computing that people are afraid about, it's years away from something like that happening. But the security is paramount. It doesn't matter if you're doing silver or gold, if you're doing numismatics. It doesn't matter if you're driving a car. It doesn't matter if you go to a foreign country. Understanding places to go, things to do, things not to do. Understanding what emails to open in your email. All of these things are security factors, and you have to have those in mind when you're looking at safeguarding money in general. Doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin, doesn't matter if it's gold or silver, doesn't matter if it's a stock trade. You have to have security on your mind at all times. There are a ton of people whose sole purpose is to protect the sanctity of Bitcoin. And I'm going to tell you, if I had to choose between Bitcoin and the banking system to throw all my money in, if I only had two options, I would go Bitcoin in a heartbeat, because their password's 14 words versus a 9 or 10 password code that can be guessed. Again, just understanding security. The other thing is making sure you have your outs. A lot of people misrepresent how easy it is to spend. You talked about spending it on your barber. How would you get it from your wallet to your barber?
Very simple. My barber has a wallet. Okay. So she has her wallet. Hers happens to be a hot wallet that she keeps on the phone, but she doesn't keep a lot of money on there, because let's just finish that wallet thing real quick. So
Yeah.
the hot wallet on the phone, the seed phrase is actually in the software. So it is possible for people to get to that seed phrase. Cold wallet is the software does not hold the seed phrase. The seed phrase has to be input via another device that you never connect to the internet. So there's no way anybody can access that seed phrase. The seed phrase is held on a separate device that is not connected to the internet. And all that device does is, when that software says, hey, we're going to move Bitcoin to this new place, I need to know the seed phrase. You take the other device, you scan the seed phrase, and it says, okay, that's you, and sends it. So it never, your seed phrase is never exposed to the internet or anyone to be able to take it. Whereas a hot wallet, it is in the phone, and it's very difficult, but it could be extracted if someone got your phone. So I tell people hot wallet is your spending cash, cold wallet is your impenetrable safe. Okay, that's where you keep your wealth, and then your hot wallet is where you put your spending cash on. So whatever, like maybe $1,000 or something. So once whatever wallet you're using, whether I'm using a cold wallet or a hot wallet, if I want to send my barber some money, all they do is they open up their wallet, and it will create a QR code, which is the address to where I'm going to send the Bitcoin. I then take my hot wallet or cold wallet, scan their QR code, and put the amount I want to send, and hit send. And within 10 minutes, it will be in her wallet, final settlement. Nobody can stop it. So that's how you send Bitcoin. You can also, if you don't want to use the QR codes, it will create a Bitcoin address, which is a series of numbers and letters, which is, I forget exactly how long, but it's long. You would definitely have to copy and paste it. And then you could copy and paste that into the address area and send it that way. But the QR codes are very easy. For instance, if you ever go to Steak and Shake, you want to pay with Bitcoin, hit the button. It says Bitcoin. A QR code will pop up on the screen. You take your phone, you open your wallet, you hit send. The send will open up your camera. You scan the code. It'll say, is this the amount you want to send to this address? You say yes, and you hit the button, and within seconds, it's there.
Perfect. Vote for Pedro asks a question. One of the points you brought up last week was the anonymity in which transactions utilizing Bitcoin. Does the new EU crypto law starting in 25 end the anonymity?
No. That's one of the beauties of Bitcoin is the state can write as many laws or anything they want to do. They have zero influence over the Bitcoin network. Nothing. Because the Bitcoin network, as we discussed before, is a decentralized network. There is no single server. The nodes run the Bitcoin, the miners and the nodes. The program is downloaded on my node. It's downloaded on hundreds of thousands of nodes around the world. And we all connect with each other. And that's where it is. There is no single server. There is no single point that a government could force someone to change the code or do anything to Bitcoin. So any laws they do, all those laws do are uh, keep the country itself out of the network. They don't want to use the network, and that's fine. But they can't stop you from using the network in any way, unless they, like I said, unless they shut down the grid forever.
So he says, thanks for clarifying. I appreciate it.
Does that cover it for him?
Yep.
Is
He
there
says,
a
thanks for
follow-up on that?
clarifying. And again, folks, there's a lot of things, and I've been in a couple of streams recently with people talking about investments and strategies. And I'm not an expert in any of these. This is why I bring people up to talk about this stuff who have the knowledge. I don't mind doing research and doing things like I showed you at the very beginning, which is running some numbers, pulling some stuff, showing you a chart and showing you what I can see. But these questions are very specific, and I don't have the answers necessarily. So Hercules, number one, as you stated it very clearly, fantastic guy. Thank you for sharing the knowledge. And again, just to reiterate, everybody, he's not being paid to be here. This is on his own time. He understood kind of what we wanted to talk about. I was introduced to him, and it just fit. His intention is not to get you to buy Bitcoin; it's to inform you. Period. End of story. He just wants people to be informed about what's actually going on. This isn't a market ploy to try to get you to buy Bitcoin, or if you're trying to figure out the confusion of what's going on, and we're not pushing you towards any specific investment. It's just discussion. But what I appreciate about Hercules is that it's not politically driven, it's not politically motivated, and it's not assumption. He's done this. You've been doing this for what, 10, 12, 15 years?
I got in Bitcoin in 2014, 2015, around there.
So we're talking 10, 11 years. And so this is somebody who's experienced. He set his own node up.
Yes.
So he understands the complexities of this stuff. So please, now is the time to ask your question. It's a great question for vote for Pedro. Luther, again, Amy made the question and the statement that, hey, I don't understand it. You're not going to get it all today. You're just not. There's no way to cover all of this. And that's not the intent, because we're not trying to sell you anything. I don't sell anything on my channel. We just give you the best information, and then you take it to your financial expert and say, I want to know more about this. Let's break this down.
And I look at it this way too, is even just for curiosity's sake, even if you don't even look at an investment, look at it in the beginning, I looked at it like, what is this new technology? I want to play with it. Set up a little wallet, buy $10 of Bitcoin, set up 2 wallets between you and your wife, send it back and forth, play with it. It's a technology. It's almost like when you first had email, right? You're like, how does this work? What do I do? You got to play with it. And that's what I did in the beginning. I was just playing with it. I was like, oh, look at that. Oh, send some across the world. Oh, that worked. How's that work? And, you don't even have to make an investment other than maybe the, $10 or whatever you do to buy a little bit of Bitcoin to move it around the network just to play. If you're curious, you could do that and just start kind of getting, used to the technology itself, and then see if it's even something you like. But what happened with me was I was like, wow, I really like this. I like the fact that I can send money across the world in 10 minutes without anybody up my butt asking me what I'm doing it for, as I did with Western Union and the crazy prices I used to pay. So, you can, like he said, we're not trying to push Bitcoin. We just want to give you information, because to just sit in the dark and not look at something that is new, that is being introduced to the world. I look at Bitcoin as it is a discovery. We have discovered how to make digital money. We made the first digital money, the first decentralized digital money that doesn't need third parties. And that is really what it is. It's a new technology. And as you start playing with it, you might say, wow, I really like this technology and I want to invest in it as a technology. But then as and then the learning process begins there if you want to learn. But to not, I'm just a curious person. I want to know stuff that's happening. I want to know how, what quantum computing. I wanted to know about electric cars. I wanted to know about the new stuff that's coming down. I geek out on new stuff.
So
So
Coach asked the question, I'm sure Bitcoin has major technical flaws to ever be easily used as currency. Have those flaws been fixed?
they are much, much better. In the beginning, it was a nightmare. You really needed to be really versed in computers to even work the network. But now I can show someone how to use a wallet in like 10 minutes. Is it perfect yet? No. I would not say it's perfect yet. I think there's a long way to go. I think at some point, if Bitcoin actually succeeds the way I think it will, you'll use Bitcoin and you won't even know you're using Bitcoin. Like you do with the internet. You don't even know the programs you're using, right? You just do something and it does it. But it is progressing at a faster rate than the internet did. When you look at the adoption curve and how quickly things are changing in the Bitcoin world, and that's the beauty of it too. Is it is a technology. You can't change the core of what Bitcoin does, but you can improve the way Bitcoin works by building layers on top of the core network to make it more seamless to use, cheaper to use, more anonymity. Whatever you want to do to the network can be built upon the network. And so Bitcoin's going to change over time the way it is used and interacted with. But it is a new technology. It is a new discovery. And it's not going to go back in the bottle. We discovered how to send value across the internet. And that's not going to go away.
So you and I talked about this very briefly when we first talked. And as you're asked a question about having you talk about your father's overseas, we'll do this. But we're talking about technology and adoption. And I'm showing this, and I love this chart. This chart is really good. If you ever want to understand how people accept things and how people move into, and this is primarily technology, but it goes to other things. People are like, well, Bitcoin it's a made up technology. Let's talk about the telephone. Let's talk about the internet.
Electricity.
Yeah. So there are
crazy.
There are so many things that at the very beginning were shunned because of lack of knowledge. And so you have these people that get on the front. They're the innovators, the people who are really understanding what's happening. And then we have those early adopters. Now, Bitcoin is in this area called the chasm right now. It's something that those pragmatics, the conservative folks that are, I just don't know about that. They're not really looking back at it, but it's about to pop through the other side of that chasm and head towards that early majority. Bitcoin hasn't got there yet. It's close, but it hasn't got there yet. When this happened with Apple, Apple exploded as a company. When this happened with the telephone and the MP3s, you guys remember MP3, MP4 players and all that stuff. When the technology was finally accepted widely, the market exploded. And I mean exploded. We talk about the internet. Does anybody know here when the internet started? And bonus question, if you could tell me who invented the internet. I always like that one. The joking version, internet person, developer. But there's so many of these that are out there because, again, I love this chart for two reasons. Number one, it tells us where we're at. Al Gore, vote for Pedro's the winner. Congratulations. Yeah, in the 60s, it was designed by scientists to communicate over long distance. Now, why did I use that? Because Azure wanted me to ask you about your father and how you get them money.
Yeah, so So if I'm interacting with someone overseas, it's just, it's exactly the same way. Um, Before it would be a Western Union, which with all the hoops and stuff and fees that I had to deal with. Now, if I wanted to send anything overseas, I just need his Bitcoin address, which he could send me via an email. I can do it over the FaceTime. He can send it to me via text. However, he wants to send me that address. And then I just input that address, whether it's in the form of a QR code or that series of numbers. I put that address into my wallet as the address I'm sending to. I put my amount and I hit send. And if you're using strictly the Bitcoin network, it will be there in the next 10-minute block. If you're willing to, if there's a lot of transactions in the queue, you might have to pay a fee. But at this current time, it's like I could send him, if I wanted to, I could send him $1 million for about maybe 35 cents to $1. Depends, like I said, on the traffic on the network, which good luck trying to send that much money to someone anywhere in the world for that price. And final settlement, no worry about security, no worry about confiscation, and no questions asked. It's your money going directly to the other person, peer to peer.
So we talked about this a little bit last time. There's a lot of people that you hear crypto, the first thing that comes to their mind is quantum computing. And we mentioned this very briefly at kind of the middle onset portion of this, but talk about why for the next however many years, probably 100, quantum computing is not going to, it's a concern, absolutely. But why
Right.
is it basically what we call in the medical industry a NIFWAD, a non-factor worthy of discussion?
Yes. Well, according to most that are in the quantum world, they're so far away from being able to hack SHA-256, the code that encrypts your seed phrase, which is what it would have to do. Is it possible that it can someday? Yes, that's why we have to keep worrying about it. But there's already quantum resistant addresses being produced, and that they will be implemented when we need to. So any technology, any advances in quantum computing, remember, yes, the criminals can use it, but so can it also be used for security. So um, Bitcoin is adaptable. It is code. It can be adapted. You can't change the core tenets of it, but you can adapt it. And so, if anything, it is of all the things that quantum is going to be able to hack, which it's going to be able to hack your bank account within probably within a few years. But Bitcoin is probably, like you said, close to 100 years away unless we have some crazy advancement. But Bitcoin at least is the developers in Bitcoin and the people involved in Bitcoin. They already have some fixes and one for quantum resistant addresses, and we will implement that. I don't think banks or anybody else is doing anything to protect their data from quantum computers. Banks, everything, every server that you use is going to be able to be hacked by quantum computing. And like I said, if it can hack SHA-256, it can hack the nuclear codes. So we got a lot of problems if it gets to that point. So is it something I think about? Yes, but I know that the developers in Bitcoin, the people that work on Bitcoin and develop Bitcoin, um, are already have fixes ready to go, and I'm not that concerned about it at this point.
There are some things that you can do, and again, just from I've been an IT geek for a number of years. There are things that you can do that have nothing to do with quantum computing that you can do to protect yourself. Um, be leery of unsolicited offers, um, emails that promise you that you can do stuff with this, looking at guaranteed return, trying to identify and look at your various social contexts, being aware of the tools in which somebody might try to steal your information. This has nothing to do with crypto. This is just smart strategies for protecting yourself. I say smart a lot, okay? Not smart as in knowledge, smart as in specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. These are goals that you should be looking at. Why do I need to protect this? What should I be doing? These are smart goals. These are strategies that I use day-to-day life to identify these things. It's also important to make sure that you have security. Make sure you're performing updates and doing things not on your computers and your phones and stuff like that. But if you're buying apps, man, are you utilizing an Apple or are you utilizing what's the other one?
Google.
Yeah, what's the it's Android. Okay, Android technology.
Mm-hmm.
Where are you getting it from? Knowing your sources are extremely important. Do any of these sound familiar? Yeah, they're the exact same strategies that you would for stacking. The exact same ones. It's no different because it's just smart money management. It's making sure you understand where your security is and understanding where your gaps are and reviewing them. Hey, anybody drive a car? What happens if you don't change the oil? What happens if you don't put gas in it? See, these are fundamental tactics that you have to do to be able to drive your car. You need to know the same thing about your investment. If you're investing in stocks and portfolios and you don't know what the valuation or you don't know what the on hand cash for that company is, or you don't know what they have in their retail storage, you know, how much they have on stock, how much backlog they have, why are you investing in those companies? Do your research, know what's going on, know the platforms, know what's happening, and stay up to speed. Oh, wait, hold on. One of the most important things we talk about when we talk about stacking precious metals or numismatics is to have trusted sources. Guess what? None of these things are any different depending upon where you're talking about any kind of investment money. Doesn't matter if you're talking numismatics. It doesn't talking if you're talking about coin collecting. It doesn't matter if you're talking about any of these things. The same basic premises go into play, and that is have a strategy, understand what that strategy is, stick to that strategy, make sure your software is up to date, make sure your technology is up to date, identify what the trending tools and stuff, the manipulation that's utilized by those people who would want your information, and be informed. It's important that you do your research, right? Those are the things. But again, the strategy for crypto is no different than it is for silver and gold. The problem is what we hear in the media, what we hear in channels is a bunch of uninformed people talking about stuff they just don't have any business talking about. This is why I'm not talking about Bitcoin. Hercules is. I don't have the knowledge to speak of it. I shouldn't be running my mouth about it. But I can tell you that the strategies for implementing this is definitely the same as I would for stacking silver and gold, platinum, palladium, or numismatic items. The same tenets, the same practices. It's just smart. So when you're looking at technology, when you're looking at getting at these things, develop a strategy. That's kind of like the number one thing you really need to focus on. I do this for a living, right? And so I talk about process improvement, strategy, risk assessment, stakeholder analysis. This is why I talk about these things, because this is what I do. Bring in the experts to talk about the specifics of the element, i.e. Hercules, right? But are we the end all be all of this discussion? No. Go cultivate more resources. Go learn more. Go listen to people. Listen to what they say, then go research it. I had one person, and I know I'm deviating from what we talked about for just a second, but I want to say something. I had a guy, goes by the name of MV, who sent me a ton of stuff and said, here's my concern. Here's where I'm at. This is what I'm looking at. This is my question. When I was reading through some of this stuff, it's like, I can understand. I don't have the answers to some of these things, but I know people who do. We've talked about some of these today with Hercules, but there are things with mining. There are things with specific security measures that we don't have the knowledge on. I'm going to have to go find somebody who speaks to that. I've been given a couple good names. We're going to work on trying to get that done and bring those people. But I need your engagement. I need you guys to tell us what it is that you need to learn. I can help do it, but I can't read people's mind. So please make sure, I love that comment. Mind is like a parachute. It doesn't work if it isn't open. Love that, Azure. But what's important is to make sure that if you have questions, number one, take time to really think about what you're asking. And when somebody gives you the answer, does it get to the crux? Or does it let you know that, hey, maybe I don't understand this as much as I thought I did. Maybe I need to go back and look. Be willing to accept the fact you may not know as much as you think you know. Because if you close your mind off to learning, you start to make fundamental attribution mistakes. And those lead to really, really, really bad decisions. So surround yourself with experts. Surround yourself with people that you can do what they call deference of expertise. Let them guide you and direct you. And then again, from there, make your own decisions. So
if I can add to that, Frosty,
please.
One of the things that, as Bitcoiners we tend to say a lot is nobody knows who I am. Don't trust me. Don't trust anybody.
Fact.
Bitcoiners say, do not trust, verify. Right?
Or trust but verify. Yeah.
Yeah. If you hear something and whatever it sounds like, don't just take it on anybody's word. Investigate it, read about it, and go do some research and verify it for yourself. And that's the beauty of Bitcoin too, is that's why I have a node. I can verify every transaction on that network. I can verify that there's 21 million Bitcoin. I can verify anything that is said to me is there, and I can verify it on the network. So Bitcoiners are very big on saying, do not trust, verify. And I suggest that to people who are listening to this. Do not trust me. Go verify everything I'm saying. Go, if you're interested, you go look it up yourself. Go do your research. And don't trust anybody.
Is there anybody in this chat, anybody, who has ever heard me, Seeker, Yankee, Paula, Jack Young, that said, hey, if a coin comes in a slab, hold on just a second, I'm going to change this. If I made anybody sick, please bear with me. If a coin is in a slab, trust it. Hey, if you buy a gold coin from a coin shop, it's okay. You trust that person. There's no need to test it. Hey, if you're going to get a Comex bar, you're going to spend, $150,000. You're going to buy a big 1,000-ounce Comex bar, and you don't have to worry about testing it. You don't have to worry about doing any of that stuff because it has a trusted name on it. You'd think we were idiots. But the same premise goes with every aspect of finance. Trust but verify. If you are making decisions based off FOMO, you guys have heard me say this before. Act, don't react. Do your research, make a decision. Have a plan. Develop that plan. Establish that plan. Implement that plan. Don't react. Reaction is emotional. That's where FOMO comes into play. Okay, so we talk about this stuff all the time in the stacking world. Trust but verify. Same thing goes with Bitcoin. And folks, the parallels here, and again, am I for Bitcoin or am I not? I'm still undecided. And the reason that I say undecided is because I don't want to lead you towards making a decision. If you're for it and you want to try it, do more research and make a determination. Don't go off of what him and I are saying. We are not financial experts. We're trying to give you the best information that we can. That is all. Go seek out other people. And when you hear stuff and it's all pointing to a political aspect and it's not talking about the actual merit of the item itself, you might want to take a little consideration on why that conversation is happening. Be careful for bias, right? So test those theories, cultivate multiple options, cultivate multiple resources, and then make your decision. Act, don't react. So thank you for saying that, Hercules, because again, it's extremely important. There is nothing that we're talking about today that is against silver, gold, platinum, palladium, osmium, numismatics. Nothing. Absolutely not. I wouldn't necessarily enjoy having somebody on my channel who was like, everything you enjoy doing sucks. You need to do this. Now, I would bring people up who don't agree with me because it's good conversation and it helps me understand things I might not understand. But that's not what Herc is here to do. He's here to just inform you. And that's it. Period. End of story. What am I missing? Am I anything? My sister's dog did that to me. I'm assuming you're talking about stole half of my sandwich. I knew that Bitcoin would be huge when the two people cleaned my home each asked to be paid in Bitcoin years ago. It's a great one. What else do you want to say, Hercules? I kind of deconstructed your concept or your conversation. I apologize for that.
Oh, that's okay. No, no, I just just wanted to give, like I said, a high level view of what it is, and I encourage people to do their own research, read about it. We discussed a couple books last time. Maybe try that. And like I said, the other thing, download a wallet, buy $10 of Bitcoin and play with it. Move it around. Have your child have a wallet or your spouse and send it back and forth and just play with it like a game just to see what it is. And you'll get a better understanding of what this technology is all about.
So you mentioned one book last week. I bought the book, sent it out to THS. THS was the person who won that. You mentioned another book. Give me another book. I'm going to buy another one, and I'm going to be giving it away in chat.
The Bitcoin Standard by Safety MS. AMMUS, I believe its name is.
Okay, so that was the one that we did last time. I'm going to buy another one and give that away. So if you are in chat, doesn't matter if you're in the vertical or horizontal stream, I want you to make sure that you are putting stuff in chat. This is something I'm going to give away. I'm also going to be throwing in a couple other goodies when I get this particular one in. Luther, who had to leave, had given a bunch of little copper bars to give away on the channel. And I am going to give some of those away. And then 75 in pennies, who I haven't seen in chat, gave away, or actually sent to me, a series of rotated die holders. So if you have a coin that you think is rotated, you can put it in one of these holders and it'll tell you what the degree of rotation is. It's a really cool, interesting thing. She did this on the side, wanted to help the channel, so she sent some of those to me, and I'm going to send them out to the person who wins this. So again, be commenting in chat. And again, this is, he doesn't know this, but these gifts are courtesies of Hercules for being on here today. And my thank you to him for supporting the channel and just coming along and sharing some great information. So make sure you guys, the next 10 minutes, the name of the first book, what was the other book that you were talking about?
The three I recommended was The Bitcoin Standard by Safety Emmaus. The other one was, hold on, just lost it here. 1 second. I want to make sure I get the names correct.
So make sure you guys are chatting. Doesn't matter which one you're in, vertical or horizontal. Make sure that you are putting something in chat. I will run a command here shortly
Sorry, I had them up and I just lost them.
Oh, Rockzilla, that I almost just threw up a little bit in my own mouth. I have a friend that owns a small corner store. I had one of those Bitcoin for something like 200 coins. I wanted.
Well, I don't know about that one because Bitcoin was invented in 2008. You said 1990s?
In the 90s, yeah. I
Yeah,
think
there was no Bitcoin in the 90s. 2008 was when the white paper by was put on GitHub, and that's when Bitcoin was developed.
Siren
Right.
just threw a bunch of jewels. Thanks so much, Siren. I appreciate you doing this. Hey, and by the way, folks, I am not tracking what this means to boost a post or to hype a post or whatever the hell that thing is called. But I hear it is beneficial. So if you guys can hype this, I think that's what it's called. Bear with me for sounding stupid, but I just learned about this the other day. Consider doing that. That would be great.
So, Frosty, those 3 books: The Bitcoin Standard by Safedine Ammous, Ammous. Inventing Bitcoin by Jan Pritzker. I think that's the one you got yesterday. Last week. And then Mastering Bitcoin by Andreas Antonopoulos. And another good one is Broken Money by Lynn Alden. So any one of those 4 books is, if you're interested in learning about Bitcoin, would be a good read.
Perfect. I don't think lives are hyped. I have no idea. I don't understand. I've not been tracking that. Oh, my wife has a bunch of dog treats. So hold on just a second. We got a new puppy. Oh, you.
Well, that's like a baby, a newborn baby.
Oh,
a lot of work.
Well, okay. If you had to think of dogs that would be really tough to manage, what would be the number one dog you think?
Oh, you know what? I love them, but they're a little crazy. Is the French Bulldog?
Okay. Anybody in chat? What do you think one of the hardest pups to deal with would be? Border Collies? That's pretty close. Yeah. Go along the Spaniels. Yeah, the Springer Spaniels are that way too. How about a Jack Russell Terrier?
Oh, yeah, I can imagine.
Well, that's what we have. We did not know that that's what this dog was. And, oh, good Lord. We have been, it's a chew fest. Dog has so much stinking energy. I love the dog to death, but good Lord. This is a young person's game.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so the book has been bought. So I am going to draw. That will come in, and again, when I do that, I'll be sending out a couple other items with this. So you'll get a couple silver or a couple copper pieces from Luther, and then again, you'll get some of the other pieces. So I'm going to drop this in. Jack Knight says, Hercules, I would recommend The Internet of Money by Andreas Antonopoulos. Yes. Short, easy to understand. Great insight, Jack. And Jack offered a compliment earlier, and I want to reiterate that because it means a lot. He says the discussion has been totally different than the CF, that cluster, that he observed the other night. And I appreciate that. I told you that it would be different than that. This isn't based off of opinion, thoughts, and theory. This is based off of experience and expertise. So I'm glad that you were here and were able to include this. John Hanna, 5 gifted memberships. Thank you so much for that. OC, Mustang Dave, Jack Gallman, vote for Pedro, hold on. My name is Jeff and Angie. I'll thank John, please, for the gifted membership. So thanks so much for doing that, bud. I definitely appreciate you. Yep. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do this. Exclamation point wiener. And let's see who wins this. If it comes up with me, I'm going to laugh because it did this twice. Azure, outstanding. You can accept this or you can forward it on. I will totally leave that up to you. But again, congratulations for that. Teacher, you can't do that. Only I can do that command. Nice try, brother. I am the only one who can enter that in. So send me your information and I'll fire that off for you. If you want to forward it, we can do that as well, but I will leave that call to you. But congratulations, Azure, for the winning of that book. I will forward the book to Vote for Pedro. Done. I will send that off, and then I will send you the other things that you can have just for looking at it. I know, teacher. Good try, though. That was a good effort. If I did that, then everything would be given away, and there would be everybody in chat would win something. So I have to limit that command to only me. Not even my moderators can do this. Hercules, I appreciate you so much, brother. Thank you for taking not just a little short live. We're talking about 3.5 hours, 4 hours over the course of 2 days. And I appreciate that. I would like to have something for you. There are 2 things I would like to do. Number 1 is a forever open invitation to talk about things. If you hear of news or you hear of something and there is something that you want to talk about, there's some information that you want to dispel to my members, my subscribers, you have an open door, bro. I want to give you that. It's not something that I do. I do that pretty freely, but it's not something that I offer. Just an open door to the channel. You have access to this. Let me know. I would like to definitely discuss more about the growing of this. If you have somebody that is good on the actual mining for Bitcoin, if people are doing that, I think a special episode, maybe in a month's time, to kind of learn more about this and dig into that would be great. But what I want to do is I'm going to have you send me a text message with your P.O. box. I'm going to send you a channel round. I'm going to also send you something from the channel as a thank you. And I'm going to send you 2 ounces of silver. I'm going to send you a 2-ounce silver round just as a thank you for taking time out of your schedule just to provide information.
I really appreciate that, Frosty. I really do. Thank you.
It's not much. I don't have a lot to offer, but again, I just appreciate your time. And again, folks, this isn't a sales call. This isn't something where he's like, I want everybody to come and check out my exchange. And, if you're going to use a node, make sure you're using mine. There's none of that. This has just been information, non-advice. It's just give you good, solid, reliable facts. So I'm looking forward to future discussions, Hercules. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate your time and your effort. And again, Azure, thank you so much for all of you done and for sending that gift to Vote for Pedro. Vote for Pedro has done a lot for this community. And so very kind gift, and I greatly appreciate it. Any closing remarks, Hercules?
Nope, I would just say, like I said, keep your mind open, investigate, don't trust, verify. And if there's any questions, get to Frosty. If I can answer them, I will either come back on or through him. And as we watch the fiat system crumble in front of our eyes, we need to be prepared.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, it's, I think this is one thing that the crypto and gold stackers all have in agreement. Moving away from fiat is not a suggestion. It should be a focus.
Yeah, and it won't be an option. I don't believe in somewhere in the near future.
Dandy Dave, thank you so much for that. Azure, again, thank you so much. Everybody that came in today, you know, we are fabulously numismatics. But again, if I am going to do the due diligence as an educator to teach you guys how to stack and collect smartly, then understanding how to manage and balance finances has to be a topic that we talk about. I may not be able to provide you the information. This is why I'm not a finance person. But to give you information and to give you places where you can ask questions and say, hey, I heard this information from somewhere. Can you tell me more about it? Go talk to your finance person. If you don't have one and you're really looking at growing and securing your financial futures, get one. I was talking to somebody the other day and he said they were looking at doing a fund, and it's like, but it's going to cost me so much money in attorney fees. Well, duh. You're going to have somebody build you something that's going to sustain and build your wealth for future generations to come. You're probably going to have to spend money to do that, right? So again, take time to make time. Take time to make money, and then spend money, keep your money. Make sure you get those people behind you that have the knowledge and the resources to do what you need to do. And if you ever have any questions, again, you can come back to me and I can reach out to my network and I can talk to people and hopefully get more people on. So again, Hercules chat for all of those that are here that have humored us, that are like, I'm still not into Bitcoin. Thank you for the opportunity to share information with you. That's all we ask for. So folks, I wish you the best. We'll be here tomorrow. Jack Young will probably be coming back up. I think he's going to talk about Indianapolis and the show that he was at. So please come back, bring additional questions. And as always, go watch those videos and ask questions in chat. This is where I get a lot of the information for what we do on our channel. So please, please, please let us know. Again, Hercules, thank you so much for coming up. Folks, be well, be blessed. And you know what? I will see you guys in the streams.